Now, leveraging the local ecosystem.
All right, everybody, welcome back to our program here at Sports Tech Nation. Hope you enjoyed our last session. Saul, Robin, and Shmulik were excellent to listen to the future athletes, how technology is merging as well. I know when I have future kids, hopefully it'll come into play. Who knows what the technology will be like in 10, 15 years down the road as they hopefully begin an athletic career, but not quite sure if they want to get into music or whatever, that's fine too. I do want to introduce our next panel though, because I'm going to pass the baton to another member of the Coliseum sport family I've gotten to know a little bit over the last couple of years, Tomer, who is joined by three gentlemen thinking big and thinking small, ready to discuss how major sports events can help kind of shape the local sports tech ecosystem with Paris 2024 in mind.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very important session and panel. First, it's great to have you with us. And we know the huge impact of sports event on the local community, on the city, and for now, for the future. And we just saw it in Tokyo right now, but all of us are now looking ahead to Paris 2024. So my first question to you is, what does innovation look like from your perspective for Paris 2024 as far as the sports practice is concerned?
I'll let you shoot first, Omar.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and I'm very happy to be here today. For Paris 2024, when it comes to using the local ecosystem and using technology in terms of sports practice, for us, we view it as sports practice is the fuel for watching the games and for consuming sports in general. So for us, when we design services and the way we design the projects on which we're working on, we try to look at it with two angles, actually. First one is the user experience, the spectator's experience, and the second one is what legacy will that leave to Paris, France, but also to the sports movement in general. And in that sense, that's how we build our project. So it's really how do we work with local actors that have a deep understanding of sports practice in general, but also how sports is consumed. So that could be from startups all the way to our top sponsors. And when we try to do things, we don't think in terms of technology or in terms of infrastructure that will be put into place to be only used for an event that will take place, for 4 weeks, 2 weeks for the Olympics and 2 weeks for the Paralympic Games. We try to look on what will that leave in terms of tangible and intangible legacy for the sports movement for Paris and for France.
Amazing.
Yeah. If I can just jump on that, I think on our side, we're very much aligned with Omar and what they're doing in Paris 2024. So the Trampoline, which is just an innovation platform for sports that has been built back in 2014, so quite a long experience. The idea in terms of local ecosystem is first to help the startups to take advantage and to take the opportunity of the Paris Olympic Games in 2024. And we have some of our partners which are actually sponsors of Paris 2024. So first, it's how we can help our partners, just like a lottery like FDG or even a retail like Decathlon, in terms of addressing their needs as part of their partnership with Paris 2024 and try to have an impact during that mega sports events. But beyond that, and I think this is what Omar was referring to at the end of what he was saying, is more around the legacy. So our role and our goal as well is to try to work with the Ministry of Sports, but also the city of Paris and the metropolitan area to try to have more people active. It's not necessarily more athletes or more top performance, but it's rather any citizen that wants to enjoy, that want to be physically active. It's what is the legacy for the city, for the metropolitan area, in terms of infrastructure for sure, but also in terms of like mindset, in terms of a sporting culture and lifestyle. And so we're trying to see how we can try and to try new things in terms of like how you can bring more people into a healthy lifestyle, if you want. And so here we are working closely with the local ecosystem to try to find, like I was saying, infrastructure, but sometimes it can be also active design, it can be product or services that startups can help source and secure for the city, for the different stakeholders involved in Paris 2024, just so that it doesn't last just not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 6 weeks, but it's rather something that will go beyond 2024 and that will stay for 25, 26, and the rest of the decade.
Yeah, and if I can chime in on that one, and obviously at LaSource being on the private side of things, right, working with private organizations and startups, I think that it's a bi-directional thing. It's not only about how the sports are now going to be fully integrated to the cities, but it's also how the sports that were born in the cities are actually penetrating now the Olympic movement, whether it be through breakdance or skateboard at the previous Olympics, right? It's that like that the line is getting thinner and thinner. And I think it's also true beyond the sports that are happening at the Olympics, right? A lot of those new leagues, new types of competitions are taking more and more the urban codes and the way they approach their competition, whether you look at a competition like Formula E or ESC that are now going to take place within the city, that the border between sports and the global life and the global city life is getting thinner and thinner as elements like green sports and practicing within the city, not building infrastructure that's completely separated and that cannot be reused, is getting more and more important and more prominent in our society.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And we will move to the second question. What are some of your focuses in terms of innovation from an organization and consumer perspective?
Okay, I will start on that one. I think just like what we've just said, I think if I take the public authorities side and angle rather than Samuel's one, which is more on the private side, but we do work a lot with the City of Paris and the Ministry of Sports, like I was saying. And here the idea is more, we've just come back, or it's not actually finished, but it's like we're still in a pandemic. And the thing is, we've seen a lot of drop out in terms of like young kids and actually even adults not practicing sports anymore, or even not even registering to any kind of federations and sports within an association. And so here there's a real challenge until 2024, but beyond that, in terms of how can we prevent the society to become more and more inactive. So that's really one of the of the priorities, and clearly Paris 2024 is a good, I would say, opportunity to address this and to try to understand, okay, what are the barriers, what are the incentives we can put in place, what are the new forms of practicing sports, how we need to adapt. And when I say that, it's not just solely within clubs, it can be within associations, but also at school. And so here we're trying really to see also in terms of like how you shape the city of tomorrow and how you design the whole city, how you can make it more relevant for younger generations to practice. And so here we're trying as well to experiment a lot. So there's a first phase where we'll try to really analyze the bias and the problems. And then there will be a second phase where there will be more around experimentation and trying through the startups ecosystem we have in terms of like fighting this kind of physical inactivity, if I can say. And you have a lot of also implication around health and obesity and all these kind of things where actually it's for public good. So ultimately it's something which is like high priority on our radar with Paris 2024.
Thank you, JP.
Should I add, if I could add something actually in that topic? For us, there are many things that are being put into place. First of all, it's the way how could you get people interested in the games through physical activity. So first of all, getting people interested in the games in new ways. So the engagement approaches that we're having, we're trying to get. I don't know if you've seen in our bid and different presentations that we have for the sites, but for instance, there will be the possibility for people to run the marathon in the same conditions as the athletes on the same day, following the same path for the Olympics, and they'll have the possibility to do road cycling for the Paralympic Games as well. So you do take place, so you could touch actually in person the games in that time. Many sports will be taking place outside of the stadiums. It will be taking place in the city. So, for instance, breakdance and BMX, etc., and rock climbing will be taking place in La Place de la Concorde. You'll have horseback riding that will be taking place in the Château de Versailles. Volleyball, beach volley will be taking place under the Eiffel Tower. So you have all of these things where we're trying to make it more relevant to people. And not necessarily having to go to venues to be able to watch the games. And there's also the fact of, so this is to put people into being more in line with the games, but also there is the fact of, there's something called the Club 2020, Paris 2024, where actually by doing physical activity, by being interested a little bit more in the game, by answering some quizzes, some gamification that is being put into place, where there is physical activity, not necessarily high performance sports, to be able to cater for the different personas that are out there that consume the games, that you have this way of having people engaged in discovering sports through just walking a little bit is enough in terms of physical activity, not necessarily, as Josh was saying in the introduction, not trying to push everyone to become a high performance athlete, but rather trying to align with what the WHO, the Ministry of Sports of France, and in terms of fighting obesity and being inactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just from our perspective, and bouncing off the gamification piece, I think that one of the things that's very key is obviously the Olympics has a power to interest people that no other event in the world has, right? So it really brings the different people together. And one key component of the current dynamic of society is that people are looking for social interaction and looking to have a voice in the global picture. And it has very different angles than it has had in the previous years, right? So I think that one thing that will be very interesting around the Paris 2024 Olympics is how everybody's voices will be heard and how it will be more of a decentralized approach, right? Everybody will have more of a chance to participate, whether it's because the sport is happening in an urban area or just because the mechanisms of production, and especially after COVID, where organizations have had to find agile ways of producing content and involving their fans. I think that more than ever, Paris 2024 will be an event that will not only be a one-way street, but more of a two-way street between the organizers, the broadcasters, and the audience that will have an active say and an active role in the overall Olympics. And whether you take it at a very, voluntary basis of people, participating in Paris, or whether you're a Korean fan of biathlon interacting from your country and being capable of having a voice in what's happening and the interaction between yourself, the sport, and the athletes.
Yeah, and just on that, I think that's key because it merges the iconic places from Paris, just like Omar said. So if you go to the Eiffel Tower or if you go to different places, that's just amazing, and you can see your sports. But at the same time, we all know, and especially after 2 years of the pandemic, that we need to adapt, and having the possibility to have more UGCs, that's also something that we're looking at closely within our local startup ecosystem, because clearly the sponsors and even, I guess, the IOC is looking for a global footprint. So ultimately, it's how it benefits the local area, but you need also to make sure there is value for everybody, including the sponsors and the IOC. And so having this kind of digital approach where you can also reach out to the fans everywhere, that can also share their content, that can also like be part of the event, even though they are not based in Paris and enjoying the city. That's also something we're working on. Obviously, with our angle, there is the idea that we maximize the opportunity for Parisians, and so people living in France as well, or people traveling to France, because the city of Paris is quite iconic, and you have like amazing places everywhere, and that you can turn into a great festivity. But there is clearly this needs for digital inputs, especially for our partners that I was referring to at the beginning of what we were saying, because ultimately you want this event also to be global, and you want to give the fans the opportunity to have their voice heard, to be a bit more interactive, and to take part into this big party.
It sounds like the fan gonna have much more holistic experience. Omar, anything else that you want to add?
Are you gonna run the marathon, Omar?
No, we don't. We're not. We can't participate as employees of the organizing committee. We leave that to the rest. You know, we do marathons every day.
An excuse not to participate too.
What about you, JB? You plan to?
Yeah, no. I'm leaving that, just like Omar. You know, I've got another excuse. I think I need to leave that to all the citizens to enjoy the marathon. But I mean, just this kind of initiatives is just telling you, like, Omar and the guys in Paris 2024, how they're also thinking innovation. So innovation, you can go through processes, through different digital activations, but just in terms of format and opening up the games to the society and to the citizens, I mean, that's a good way, and that's a great way to engage actually with them, and to give a legacy, and to give something to the people that are hosting you actually.
Yeah, and I think that's really a testimony to the different angles that innovation can have. Innovation is not necessarily, paying expensive for certain new types of technologies, or embracing 5G with new methodology of production. Innovation can take different angles. That can be just in terms of organizing beach volley under the Eiffel Tower is just as innovative as other tech solutions out there. And I think that that's a global spirit that more and more people are getting, is that innovation doesn't necessarily have a high price, or doesn't imply a cost necessarily. Innovation is not money that goes to waste. It's actually it actually helps the overall sport and the sport movement to grow in different ways, whether it's by creating wow effects, whether it's by reducing the cost, whether it's by increasing revenue, whether it's by embracing some of the needs of the fans. So yeah, there are multiple different ways that innovation can come through and that's a great example of how Paris 2024, with the historical amateur approach that the Olympics have, that's really interesting.
Because we don't want to do tech for tech's sake. That's the main perspective. We try to see what is the use case that we're trying to address. Because at the same time, we have a delicate equation trying to solve, because we're trying to leave legacy. We're trying to have a neutral carbon footprint on the games. We're trying to reduce costs, because if you have games that are super expensive, you're going to have less and less candidates in the future. So having all of these elements in the equation, you're going to have to find what is the where the desirability is for your end user, what is feasible and what is viable. That's the most important. These are the three main factors that we try to put into place when we deploy products or services when it comes to the games.
And actually, if I can just say something on that, it's for the audience. Maybe it sounds I would not say easy, but the scale of the game makes it quite complex in terms of, even though you've sourced or you've tested one solution, then the scale of it is big. And the thing is, like, and Omar is even in a better position than me to say it, but that reminds me of the time at UEFA when we were delivering the Euro back in Paris in 2016. But it's not like you have plenty of time. Actually, the games are tomorrow. And so the idea is that even though you've sourced and you find the right solutions, maybe you can test it, you can have some use cases, but then after you need to make sure that you already start implementing it and processing it today, because you will need it for 2024. And actually you need to press on the green button in the next 6 months, maybe 12 maximum. But I mean, this means that really the time is today and the games are just tomorrow. So in terms of scale, you need to make sure everything will be working. And so that means that you need to be ready. And this means that you need to do it now, actually.
That's why, actually, for us, the thing is, we've been working on experimentations, for with proof of concepts on, technology readiness levels that are pretty high or somewhat low. But the more we advance, the higher the technology readiness level should be. 2022 will be, the last window that we'll have to be able to test solutions before going into delivery, at that scale. And usually in organizing committees, you have the year prior to the games that you use for what we call the test events, and that's the experimentation phase comes prior to the test events, because test events are solutions that are ready to deploy. And you just do these test events to make sure that, if there are some last fine tunings you need to do, you could do them in this remaining year.
Yeah, I think the scale of it, again, is very complex. And so that stuff, in terms of, it depends a bit on the innovation. The last thing, and that might be something for Sam as well, but for me, it's the digital part of it is maybe the one where you have a bit more flexibility, especially when we see now everything which is happening. I mean, the big hype around the metaverse and all of that. But that might be the only space where you could decide, and even that I'm not really sure, but you could decide a bit late activations, a bit in terms also like how do you engage with the fans, how do you create new kind of content, on which kind of blockchain technology you can be using to have some kind of reward in the physical space. I mean, I guess on that one, it would be a bit less time urgent than the scale of, like, if you are thinking about the energy or the infrastructure of like the bigger delivery of the games from a backend perspective. But I think the digital space might be one of the things that's really at Le Tremplin would be like, for the digital, we will remain quite active, I think, until close to 2024, because this is where I think we can be quite innovative and quite transform it quickly without being too complex sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the digital transformation has been accelerating, and once again, COVID has been helpful in terms of thinking about new ways. And yes, the digital infrastructures are now at the level where, one, they can scale and they know how to scale, and so the flexibility that there is, at least talking in 2021 about an activation in 2024, there's still a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, we can anticipate, but not everything, I guess.
Of course not.
Perfect. So JB, Sam, Omar, it was really inspiring session, and I'm sure we can sit here for hours and speak about the next Olympic and a lot of ideas. And I'm sure, like I said before, the experience of the athletes, of the fandom, of all the stakeholders in the Olympic, going to be different next time. So thank you very much. Happy to have you with us again here at the Sports Tech Nation, and see you in Paris 2024, or even before in the Global Sports Week.
Yes. Most probably. Thank you.